We do not care.
This was the first ever Superman film. In fact, the first ever DC film, and it released all the way back in 1951. And surprisingly, despite being dated at this point, it is far from my least favorite movie on this list. The Mole Men barely qualify as proper villains in any way. However, I've always thought George Reeves plays a pretty good Superman, and even though the movie might be a snorefest for today's audience, it still gets my respect for being the first one out for DC. Okay, let me explain why this movie is ranked so highly. My dad used to watch the reruns of this show on TV, and I'd always be watching with him, so I have a lot of nostalgia when it comes to this one. Batman has to take on a collection of his rogues gallery here, and as you can imagine, it's a pretty campy movie. It's goofy, and it's intended to be funny and cheesy. If you grew up solely on the Nolan trilogy, I can understand if you didn't like this afterwards, but to me, it's just always been a fun watch. It's basically just a feature-length version of the show.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk much here. I've never liked it. The story follows one of the comic book arcs, where Diana has no actual powers and just uses her martial arts skills to get out of situations. The costume isn't one of my favorites, and the villain was extremely forgettable. Now this is the true representation of Wonder Woman from the comics. This movie basically serves as a pilot for Linda Carter's TV series. I think Linda is an amazing Wonder Woman. The story was well written, and the ensemble cast was great as well. It turned out to be a pretty faithful comic book adaptation.
It was perfect.
Although there were many comic book movies that came out before this one, I'm pretty sure to many people, this has to be the godfather of all comic book movies. And funny enough, it was actually written by Mario Puzo, who also wrote the story for The Godfather as well. This was the first real time a studio decided to give a comic book movie a big budget and handle the property with utmost respect, and it worked out perfectly. The cast was perfect, with Margot Kidder as Lois, Gene Hackman as Lex, Marlon Brando as Jor-El, and Christopher Reeve, who is still to this day some people's definitive representation of the perfect Superman casting. Looking back, this is still a great movie with a great soundtrack.
Not bad, not bad.
This one basically has two versions out there, the theatrical cut and the Richard Donner cut. I'll basically be ranking both. What happened with Donner is they were shooting both Superman 1 and 2 at the same time, but because they went over budget, they stopped the shooting on the second one and focused solely on finishing 1. Obviously, 1 turned out to be a hit, and when 2 was eventually greenlit, the studio and Donner were on bad terms, so they brought in somebody else to finish shooting and directing the movie. I have no doubt that if Donner was able to finish his vision he had for 2, it would have been ranked higher.
I mean, it's alright, like...
From director Wes Craven, I think this movie is not actually that bad. This feels like a comedy movie for me really, and whether that was the intention or not is something I don't really care about. There are some campy aspects, like almost every film from that time period, but the effects were okay, but honestly, just not as good as most of the monster movies and creature features that Universal were putting out during that time. But it's serviceable. It's an okay watch. Can someone please tell me why Richard Pryor is in this movie? As far as I know, majority of the cast themselves hate this movie as well. They replaced Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor too. It's basically a Superman movie where Supes has less screen time and the rest of the movie is just random slapstick and improv comedy. It would actually be entertaining if the slapstick and improv were actually funny. This movie has only 2 redeeming qualities, in my eyes. That was the decision to cast Helen Slater as Supergirl and the movie's musical score. The rest is just horrendous. The writing for this movie was absolutely terrible. The story doesn't even make any sense at all. Kara flies off to Earth to retrieve an item that will help her city survive whatever is happening. But while seeing some kids on Earth playing and having fun, she decides instead of looking for this very important item and saving all her people back home, she's rather going to join a school and enjoy life as a normal human for a while. I mean, really now.
Oh, come on! You gotta admit this is
Dog shit.
I did not think it could get worse for this specific set of movies, especially after 3, but I was definitely wrong on that one. I think the writing here, much like with Supergirl 1985, is just completely bad. The plot struggles to stay focused, but to this movie's credit, that could be contributed to the fact that about 45 minutes of this movie was shaved off in the editing room due to it having very poor early test screenings. Either way, I did not enjoy this one at all. This was a pretty dark time for DC comic book movies, because they just kept on putting out less than average films, and this one did not help turn the tide at all. I think the intro for this was done well at least, with the comic panels transitioning into actual scenes. That was fire. But other than that, there are no other positives I could give this film. It suffers from a very weak script and boring characters as well.
Failure! Failure! You're still a failure! Failure! I can smell the failure!
Since I liked the first one, I thought they were going to start making a comeback with their movies when they finally released this sequel. But nope, this was not the one either. The movie has this wacky, over-the-top tone that suffers from not actually being funny, and Swamp Thing himself feels like a backseat secondary character in his own movie, as it focuses mostly on Heather Locklear's character and what she's going through during the movie. Oh, and also before I forget, Swamp Thing can now telepathically bang someone, kind of like Stallone and Sandra Bullock in Demolition Man.
That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
All I can say is thank you to this movie, because it was looking bleak there for DC in their early days. Tim Burton really outdid himself with this one. It's still one of the most iconic comic book movies out there, and Michael Keaton was perfectly cast as Batman. Danny Elfman's musical score for this has to also be iconic, and something that you recognize anywhere whenever it starts playing.
Yeah, baby!
I think this movie was pretty well done, and being a Burton fan, I can appreciate what he was going for by humanizing the characters of Catwoman and the Penguin, like he did with Edward Scissorhands. But because so much time was spent fleshing out their characters, we spent less time with Bruce/Batman, and that kind of drags the movie down a little for me, personally.
I don't know.
I think the comic book for this one is pretty dope, especially since the artist for this is the same artist that created the visual designs for the band Gorillaz. The movie, however, might be one of the worst things DC has ever put out. This movie definitely tanked hard in every aspect. The writing, the storytelling, the characters, and the visual effects. It's one of those you just wish you could forget.
It's pretty cool, I guess.
This was the first Batman movie to be directed by Joel Schumacher, with Val Kilmer playing Batman. It does a lot of good things in my opinion. We got a lot more focus on Bruce as a character and Batman. Also, it establishes a good dynamic between Bruce and Dick Grayson. I think Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones were okay as the villains, but the movie just leans so heavily into the campiness that it takes me out from enjoying what they're presenting. 1997 was a pretty rough year for DC, man. The CBS network made a Justice League movie/pilot, but were refused the rights to the DC Trinity, so you kinda knew already this was not going to go too well. And it was so bad, it never actually even got the chance to air on the network, and was scrapped immediately. But I'm sure you can find it somewhere, if you just look hard enough.
And it's
Sucked!
I honestly think this is just one of the worst superhero movies ever made. This has some of the strangest decisions I've ever seen in any comic book movie. From Batman having the Bat credit card, to Arnold just hitting us with the never-ending ice puns, to the unbelievable ice hockey fight. I swear this is one of those fever dream movies, because I just couldn't believe they actually let this escape out of production. I don't even know what to say about this one either. Like, how do you do a Steel movie that entirely omits any existence of Superman? They rewrote everything and gave him a completely new, terrible-ass backstory. And let's just be honest here, people. I love Shaq, but he was not meant to do acting.
That's what I'm talking about, Shadows! You know I love that shit!
Based on a graphic novel from a DC Comics imprint, Sam Mendes directed this right after winning multiple Oscars for American Beauty. You can see the dedication and talent he has for directing, because this was a beautifully done crime thriller starring Tom Hanks. The acting in here is amazing, the story is well written, the musical score from Thomas Newman is not talked about enough, and all around just a masterpiece.
Mid!
While the movie can be a fun time to watch, the movie to me suffers when I compare it to the source material. Some of the CGI in this really have not aged well. Since Sean Connery was cast as Alan, he immediately became the leader of the group, when in reality, Mina is the leader, and she has no powers either. She's just a normal, badass human, in charge of dealing with these super-powered psychos, and the comics are just way better in every way, in my opinion.
Disappointed!
Despite the low ranking, I just want to say this is one of those, it's so bad, it's actually hilarious. They threw out all the Catwoman lore and decided to bless us with the story of a woman being offed by an evil makeup company, who is then brought back to life by an Egyptian cat, given superpowers, some serious basketball skills, and has to take on the evil cosmetic saleswoman, who now, thanks to all the makeup she uses, has gained superpowers. Yeah, this always gives me a good laugh.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Man, I really wish this movie got the recognition it deserved back in the day, and we got a sequel back then, because it really deserved one. There's a lot of elements in here that was done right. The world they presented was interesting. Keanu Reeves sold me as Constantine. The actors did an amazing job, especially Tilda Swinton as Gabriel and Peter Stormare as Lucifer. They did a really good job on this one.
It was perfect.
I'd say this movie focused more on the political aspects than being an action-oriented comic book movie, and it benefited 100% from that decision, because this movie and its message is still relevant in today's times. Hugo Weaving plays an amazing V, as well as giving top-notch poetic dialogue. Now, I will say, it's not a faithful adaptation of the comic, but when it's done so well, I believe the movie can get a pass.
Beautiful.
If you need someone to revitalize your franchise, the perfect man for that at this point would have been the man who directed Memento and Insomnia. Christopher Nolan just gave us one of the best superhero movies of all time, and a great origin for Batman's character. Christian Bale killed it as Batman. Cillian Murphy killed it as Scarecrow. Michael Caine killed it as Alfred, and I can go on, but you guys get the point by now. Everything was done great, and it's a masterpiece of a movie.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on!
It took 20 years, but we finally got a follow-up to Superman 4. I think this movie is extremely misunderstood and underrated. I believe Bryan Singer was paying his respects to Richard Donner's Supermans 1 and 2, specifically with how the movie is shot and presented. The filmmaking itself and shot selection were very cinematic, and Brandon Routh, to me, plays a pretty good Superman. I can still watch this now and have an enjoyable time. This is a pretty good fantasy adventure. It bombed at the box office, but like He-Man has taught us, bombing at the box office doesn't mean your movie is bad at all. I know most people probably haven't watched this movie, so I'll avoid spoiling anything. The story is great, and as a big fantasy adventure fan, it's definitely one that's in my top 10 because of how different it feels. Some of the CGI is dated at this point, but it has an amazing cast. We have Claire Danes, Charlie Cox, Michelle Pfeiffer, Henry Cavill, Sienna Miller, Robert De Niro, and Sir Ian McKellen, who is the narrator of the story. Do yourself a favor and watch it if you haven't.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Hands down my favorite of any DC movie, if I'm being honest. It's not even by a close mile. I can continuously watch this movie and never get tired of it. Nolan once again delivered something amazing here. Christian Bale killed it again as Batman, and Aaron Eckhart's performance in this is completely underrated, as he slowly turns into Two-Face. But the standout, without a doubt, is Heath Ledger as the Joker. I remember when it was announced he was cast, and the internet lost their minds. Meanwhile, I was just thinking, he's gonna kill this role. I mean, have you seen A Knight's Tale? It was just another masterpiece.
Hey, bro, come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
They once again tried to make a Spirit movie, and again, it was just disappointing. I will say, some of the cinematography was well done, but it loses points when you see how heavily inspired the visual style is actually just Sin City. It ends up just being a mess of a movie by the end.
Oh, good. Why, that's very good. Yes, I like that.
Zack Snyder outdid himself with this one. This is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, giving us a deconstructed look at what a world with superheroes would probably look like. They're not really something as straightforward as good and bad here, and I've always appreciated that about this. Many of the shots look like they were ripped straight out of a graphic novel and just put on screen. It's another masterpiece from DC. This is an okay one for me. The cast is what brings this one up in terms of quality. There are definitely some fun action sequences and good moments, but the plot never really interested me that much. The actors playing their roles is really the only engaging part for me, because everyone in this has that presence.
That is one big pile of shit.
This is just straightforwardly a horrible movie, and it's not even close to the realm of Catwoman, where I can accept it's bad and just have fun with its ridiculousness. It's just horrendous and boring. The movie feels like it was supposed to be longer at first, but was cut down in the editing room to the point where no real substance or story flow is left, which I don't even understand, because in the comics, his stories are so interesting, yet they fumbled when making it into a movie. It's a fun time, but ultimately a forgettable movie for me. The actors they brought together for this is obviously the strongest part. We have some of the best actors and actresses to ever do it in this movie, playing ridiculously over-the-top characters, and that alone is where the entertainment comes from. The plot is just your average, boring government cover-up story. Despite the low score I'm giving this, I still think this movie does get overhated. Ryan Reynolds didn't do too bad as Hal. There is a great lantern action sequence in the middle, but it doesn't make up for the horrible CGI suit and a completely ass story they gave us. I mean, what type of an ending fight is this? It's a horrible watch, but definitely not the worst movie they've ever put out.
Oh, that's that good shit!
Definitely the weaker of Nolan's trilogy, but only when it comes to certain plot points, really. The cast in here were phenomenal. Tom Hardy as Bane, Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an upcoming Robin. The only casting I say to this day that was terrible was Marion Cotillard as Talia al Ghul. I mean, come on now, man. There are great moments in here, but there are some mistakes here as well. I don't know why this is always the case with recent Superman movies, but this movie is overhated. This was a superhero epic for me the very first time I watched it in theaters. Yeah, it doesn't have the same feel of the classic Superman movies, and it's not supposed to. Henry's Superman feels more accurate to newer releases like Earth 1 and For Tomorrow, and the people nitpicking that he isn't comic accurate clearly don't know Superman has an 80+ years worth of source material history. Superman is not always the same in every run. Now, do I believe Henry was the best portrayal of Superman to date? No. Do I believe he could have been if given a different story and director? Absolutely. Also, the score is amazing.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
The formula for this one was about the same as the first one. It's exactly what you would expect from a sequel after you watch the first one, but the first one just stays more interesting to me. We got some cool action scenes, stale jokes, and another generic, forgettable storyline. The movie is just there to showcase the star-studded cast, really.
Yes! That's awesome!
I'm going to be talking about the ultimate cut here, because the theatrical cut would have been given a much lower ranking. In either case, this movie is way too cluttered with everything they tried to stuff in here. We have so many different storylines running at the same time. How would people respond in today's world if confronted with the emergence of Superman? It tries to explore that plot while also, at the same time, introducing Batman, while also trying to make it a Batman versus Superman movie. It touches on the death of Superman. They introduce Lex Luthor as a character. They are setting up the Justice League as well. They really threw a lot in here all at once. And at times it works, and at times it just really doesn't, and makes the story a bit messy in my opinion. It's still better than average, but it has its flaws.
But before I go, I just want to get this off my chest. That shit was not my fault. Y'all are trash.
A prime example of a studio butchering a director's work and how laughable WB Studios were run at this point in time. It's well known David Ayer only had 6 weeks to write the script for this and finish filming. But when BVS did poorly at the box office, while Deadpool was getting rave reviews, they immediately got someone to rewrite Ayer's movie and made it more comedy-driven instead of the darker tone he was going for. And the movie definitely suffers because of that. Ayer to this day has wanted WB to release his version of the movie, but that doesn't seem like it's gonna happen.
Because I love it in here. I fucking love it!
Even though I do believe Gal Gadot has had some less than great acting performances in her career, I'd be a fool to bring that statement into here. She gave an incredibly believable performance as Diana, showcasing both the character's fierce strength as a warrior and also the heartwarming innocence of someone that is not used to the inhumanity of war. This movie does a lot of things well. The chemistry she had with Chris Pine's character, a greatly told origin story, and a great musical score, accompanied by some well-choreographed action sequences. The only thing is it just falls short of being perfect, thanks to the over-the-top boss fight at the end. The Justice League. Let me tell you why I'm giving this a 0 out of 10. It's the exact same thing they did to David Ayer. It's just in this case, the reshoots were painfully obvious, and the exact reason why this movie has always felt disjointed to me. But unlike with Ayer, we finally got to see Snyder's vision, and how vastly superior it actually was to the garbage they released in theaters. Plus, taking into account how Joss Whedon's behavior on set towards the actors even further makes me hate this movie.
Nice. Nice. Made me happy, made me smile. Nice.
This was definitely one of the more fun and entertaining movies to come out of the DCEU. James Wan seemed to fully embrace the silliness of the character, and Jason Momoa played the role perfectly. Even though the movie does cover a lot of things like Aquaman's origin story, a treasure hunt, a battle for a kingdom, and an all-out war between fishmen, the story balances all this pretty well, and leaves us with a movie I don't at all mind going back to watch every now and then.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, this movie just kind of works for me. Zachary Levi definitely was one of the best casting choices they made during the DCEU run. He does an amazing job making you believe that he is a literal child in an adult body. The movie is also well done in the scenes where he is not Shazam, focusing on this family dynamic and Billy as a character, and that aspect ends up being very touching and heartfelt. The movie ends up having a good mix of comedy, action, and emotion behind it.
Why?
This is based on a DC Vertigo limited release of the same name. This is another case of the source material being abandoned, and we received a movie that isn't as entertaining as it should have been. The character motivations are not that strong, the story is a mess, and it was really a movie I did not enjoy at all. Yeah, this movie was a lot better than it had any right to be, honestly. We had gotten to a point where comic book movies have all become this big sci-fi epic spectacle on screen, and here we just get a dramatic character piece that deals with society and how we view and treat people with mental illness, and how radical that could go. Joaquin Phoenix does an amazing job playing this broken character and his slow descent into madness.
So good.
I think this one is definitely overhated. It's a nice, smaller scale crime drama where Harley is our narrator, and you just know she is an extremely unreliable narrator. It's a lot of fun and action-packed. Plus, the stunt team for John Wick were involved for the action sequences, and you can see the John Wick-esque touches in here. It far exceeded my expectation, though I wasn't expecting much. Yeah, for the majority of this movie, the first time I watched it, I was just checking my watch to see how much longer I had until I was out of the theater. The movie was super boring and uninteresting from start to finish. There were some cool action moments, but all in all, just a dull, generic DC movie. I honestly never believed we would ever get to see Zack Snyder complete his vision on screen. Warner Brothers finally decided, after so many fans kept asking for it, to give this man an extra $70 million to finish his version of the movie. And honestly, it kind of shows how incompetent they were in the first place for not letting him just do his own thing right from the start. This movie is a masterpiece, and might have saved the sinking ship that was the DCEU at the time. But at least Snyder finally got justice.
Good job. Good job.
After the train wreck that was the first one, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of excited for this. Because despite how I felt about the first one and its flaws, it did kind of make me want to see another movie of the group. And this one definitely did not disappoint me at all. They took full advantage of the wackiness of all the characters and gave us a very fun and entertaining film. I think I rewatched this more than most other DCEU movies. This was another one where the fans questioned the casting choice of Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne/Batman, only to have to take it back the second the first teaser trailer dropped, because they definitely captured the dark and gritty tone of Gotham City here, along with a damn good portrayal of Batman. The highway chase scene was absolute madness, watching that in the theaters. The actors in this all brought their A-game, and the Riddler was amazingly well played by Paul Dano. It's one of those I have no problem coming back to, and is in the higher tier when it comes to DC movies for me.
What do you think, Larry? Eh? What do you mean, eh?
This one was just right down the middle for me. The movie is extremely straightforward, has some okay action scenes, there is some humor sprinkled in here and there, and everything together just turned out mid at best for me. The Rock plays the same stoic persona he always plays, which is the right choice for this role. Just the way they hyped up this movie, talking about it's about to be the turning point for the DCEU, and how it's about to establish a new hierarchy of power and all that. But it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Also, they did Henry dirty for bringing him back for the end credits, only to send him right off again.
Job, Jamie. I'll go with you first.
I think it's incredibly easy.
Do you?
I think you can court all that nonsense if you want.
This might be the first time I've ever been furious at how badly a movie disappointed me from the DCEU, because I was expecting, after that first one, that this was going to be an enjoyable time, but like I'd learned pretty quickly, the DCEU sucked at doing sequels. This was trash. I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat it. It was trash. There's nothing really that stands out here. It's just another generic one.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
If I'm being completely honest, this movie was not as bad as people try and make it out to be, but it definitely was not good either. It's still a disappointing watch in how the execution of the film ended up being. We all know Ezra Miller got into a series of incidents that greatly affected his reputation and changed the public's perception of him, enough so that the movie immediately tanked at the box office and ended up being one of their major flops. This just felt like another generic one again, just this time they had someone like Michael Keaton come back as Batman, and it didn't help at all. This one was a nice surprise for me, especially since I didn't think much of it going into the movie. I was expecting it to just be terrible, but I walked out genuinely thinking it wasn't that bad. It could have definitely been better, but it still was a fun watch and better than most of what they put out during this time. Xolo Maridueña did perfectly fine in the role. The movie that signified the end of the DCEU, and they once again could have done better with this one as well, if I'm being honest. It had some enjoyable moments, mainly Momoa just being Momoa, but the lack of any real story that keeps you invested enough in seeing how this movie is going to go was a bit sad, especially since it ended the DCEU run. But the dialogue sucked. The ending fight with Black Manta was well done at least. This had to be the greatest fall-off in DC movie history. I couldn't even believe they actually thought this movie was good enough to put out to the public. One thing I will give it is Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga most definitely bring the acting chops. But the only problem is, when the script sucks, the storytelling sucks, the musical gimmick sucks, and the ending sucks, there just is only so much you can do. This was without a doubt my most anticipated movie of 2025. I needed to see what James Gunn's plans were for the new DC universe, and he definitely did not disappoint me with this one. Unlike Henry's version, who was a more modern take on the character, Gunn went with a more old-school version and gave us a very hopeful Boy Scout Supes, and I enjoyed every second of it. David Corenswet did a great job playing Superman, and his portrayal of the character is probably my third favorite so far. Nicholas Hoult was an amazing Lex Luthor. Rachel Brosnahan was great as Lois. Her chemistry with David is what makes the relationship believable. The cast honestly did a fantastic job here, and the movie ended up exceeding my expectations. Okay, this will be a spoiler-free review. I'm not going to waste any time here. The story follows Kara Zor-El, played by Millie Alcock, and unlike Clark, who came to Earth as a baby, Kara grew up on Krypton and saw her entire race go extinct, and later, her parents as well. Her dad sends her to Earth in an escape pod before he also passes away, so it's understandable why she comes off as a very broken and hurt character, giving us a stark contrast to Clark's character, and that is an interesting setup. So I watched the movie, guys, and
Failure! Failure! You're still a failure! Failure! I can smell the failure!
To say I'm underwhelmed might be an understatement. The movie had all the right things to be a good movie. The setups were there. It had everything going for it, supposedly being based on the Woman of Tomorrow comic. I can tell you now, if you're expecting it to be like the comic, you might want to change what you think the movie is going to be like, because it takes a lot of liberties with that storyline. Let's first talk about what I actually enjoyed. Obviously, Jason Momoa as Lobo is one of the best things here, even though he doesn't show up for long. It's always exciting when he's on screen, and he captures the chaotic energy of Lobo very well. Some of the action sequences were well done. Millie is fine as Kara, but I do think she might have been miscast in this role. But the movie as a whole just feels forgettable. Like I just watched it, and I can barely tell you much about the villain, except he sucked, and might be the worst villain in a superhero movie since that chick in the Marvels with the hammer. I think the relationship she builds up with Ruthie throughout the movie has a pretty weak build-up and payoff, honestly. Even though I'm underwhelmed by this, I'm still excited to see what's next for the DC universe, and hopefully, Man of Tomorrow delivers. I'd like to know what you guys' top 10 DC movies are. Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe.